We live in an age where we are told that comfort is a right, that ease is a pursuit worthy of our energy. Our instincts, our desires, and the very fabric of our modern existence whisper that we need not strain ourselves, that the smooth path is the one most worthy of following. But let us not deceive ourselves. We are not called to merely drift, we are called to forge. There is a battle within each of us. It is not a battle against some external force, but rather a quiet, internal struggle between the self that wishes to remain passive and the self that must become active. Comfort lies in the inertia of the soul, in the gentle currents that push us further away from effort, from discipline, from striving towards something greater. But to live well, to truly live, we must force ourselves. We must be willing to resist the easy path, the path that leads nowhere. For it is not motivation that we must seek, but discipline. Motivation is fleeting, as unreliable as the weather. Today we feel inspired, but tomorrow we wake to find our enthusiasm has fled. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady and sure, even when motivation lies dormant. It is the quiet, unyielding force that keeps us going, even when the world around us encourages retreat. In each of us is a deeper wellspring of willpower than we might imagine. But like a muscle, this willpower must be exercised, tested, and stretched if it is to grow. And so we must force ourselves, not as a punishment, but as a means of training, of cultivating a stronger, truer version of ourselves. When we push through the resistance, we do not only accomplish the task at hand, we shape the very fabric of our character, making us more capable, more whole. Consider the paradox of self-discipline. By forcing ourselves to act when it is difficult, we gain a freedom greater than the one we seek in moments of ease. For true freedom does not lie in the absence of effort, but in the ability to choose and act according to a higher, nobler purpose. Through discipline, we gain mastery over ourselves. We choose our actions instead of being led blindly by fleeting whims. Habits, too, are the small, quiet victories in this ongoing battle, in those moments when we choose effort over ease, when we say, "I will not yield." We lay the foundation for habits that will serve us in ways we cannot yet see. Today's struggle becomes tomorrow's strength. Today's forced action becomes tomorrow's natural inclination. We are all familiar with the resistance that rises when we are faced with something difficult or uncomfortable. That voice within us that says, "Not today, tomorrow will do." It is in these moments, these crucial moments, that we must force ourselves to act, to step beyond the barrier of our natural reluctance, for only by breaking through the resistance can we grow. But let us not be discouraged by the difficulty of the task. The rewards of forcing ourselves are not always immediate, but they are long-lasting. Today's effort may seem small, but over time it compounds into something much greater. The fruit of our discipline is not immediate satisfaction, but the lasting joy of a life well lived, of a character forged through struggle, and of a self that is ever developing into something more true and noble. So I urge you, as I urge myself, force yourself. Force yourself when it is hard, when the path seems too steep, and when the inner voice calls you to rest. For in the end, it is this effort, this choice to rise above comfort, that will lead us to the life we truly seek, a life of purpose, of strength, and of fulfillment. Human nature has an inherent pull toward comfort. This desire for ease can manifest in many ways, physically, mentally, or emotionally. From avoiding difficult tasks to seeking distractions, we often choose the path of least resistance because it promises immediate relief. Comfort provides a temporary sense of safety and peace. It whispers that we can take our time and delay the challenging aspects of life. However, this constant yearning for comfort hinders growth. Comfort does not push us to challenge our limits, learn new skills, or develop discipline. In fact, it keeps us stagnating in a state of complacency. This internal battle between comfort and growth is ongoing. We all face moments where the temptation to retreat into comfort is powerful, but to become our best selves, we must choose discomfort over comfort. When we force ourselves to engage in activities or tasks that stretch us, we step out of the comfort zone and begin to grow. Every significant advancement, whether personal or professional, requires us to fight against this tendency. It is not easy, nor is it instantaneous. It involves consistent effort, the kind of effort that might feel unnatural at first. But by resisting the pull toward comfort, we begin to experience deeper fulfillment, and in turn that discomfort becomes less daunting. The key to overcoming the grip of comfort lies in consistently challenging ourselves, not when it is convenient, but when it is necessary for our growth. Motivation is often regarded as the spark that fuels action. It is the feeling that arises when we are inspired, passionate, or excited about a goal. However, motivation is fleeting. It can be unpredictable and unreliable, like a wave that comes crashing with force but fades away just as quickly. At some point, we realize that waiting for motivation to arrive before taking action leads to procrastination and stagnation. In contrast, discipline is the steady engine that keeps us moving when motivation fades. Discipline is the decision to do what needs to be done, regardless of how we feel. It's about choosing to take action based on what is required, not on the whim of emotions. Whereas motivation might be present in bursts, discipline ensures that we continue to perform tasks even when motivation is absent. It is often discipline that separates those who achieve their goals from those who fall short. The most successful people are those who understand that motivation is not always necessary to accomplish something great. They rely on their discipline to do what needs to be done, even when enthusiasm is lacking. Discipline, unlike motivation, is something we can cultivate and strengthen over time through consistent practice. By forcing ourselves to act in the absence of motivation, we build resilience and self-control, which become indispensable in the pursuit of long-term success. Willpower is the ability to exert control over one's actions, emotions, and desires in the face of external demands to achieve a greater goal. It's a force that drives us to persist when the easier path calls. Willpower is essential because it allows us to resist temptations, avoid distractions, and stay focused on what truly matters. Yet willpower is not an infinite resource. It is something that can be drained by constant demands. However, developing willpower requires us to practice exerting control over ourselves. It's not something that happens overnight, but rather through daily choices to push beyond our immediate desires. For example, willpower is what gets us to continue working on a challenging project when we'd rather watch TV. It is the mental fortitude to get up early to exercise, even when the bed feels too inviting. By forcing ourselves to tap into willpower, we train it to become stronger. Just as a muscle gets stronger through consistent use, willpower grows when we deliberately choose to exercise it. Each time we decide to act against our immediate desires for the sake of a greater goal, we build resilience, which helps us in the future when similar situations arise. Thus, willpower is not just about resisting the temptation of indulgence, but about directing our energy and actions towards something meaningful and fulfilling. Self-discipline is often misunderstood as a constraint that limits freedom. Many believe that the less we discipline ourselves, the freer we are. However, the paradox lies in the fact that true freedom is not found in a lack of discipline, but in the structure that discipline provides. When we lack discipline, we are slaves to our impulses and desires, constantly reacting to the world around us instead of acting with intention. Without discipline, we are at the mercy of our whims, which often lead us toward temporary pleasure rather than lasting fulfillment. Forcing ourselves into disciplined actions, then, becomes the key to gaining freedom. It is in the very act of restricting ourselves from impulsive decisions that we open ourselves to a greater form of freedom, one based on intention, choice, and alignment with our deeper values. Paradoxically, self-discipline is the gateway to authentic freedom. not its enemy. Habits are the invisible forces that govern much of our lives. They shape our thoughts, actions, and ultimately, our character. Habits have the power to lift us up or drag us down, depending on whether they are productive or destructive. But habits are not built overnight. They are formed by repeating certain behaviors consistently until they become automatic. In the context of forcing ourselves, habits are the result of repeated discipline. It is not always easy to start a new habit or break an old one, but over time, repeated effort begins to form patterns. These patterns, whether good or bad, then govern our daily lives with minimal thought. The key to forming positive habits is to force ourselves to act, even when we do not feel like it. In the beginning, forcing ourselves to engage in an activity may feel like a struggle, but as we repeat the action, it eventually becomes ingrained. Habits, then, are not merely about doing things with ease. They are the outcome of deliberate effort and repetition. Over time, forcing ourselves to develop good habits becomes a way of life. These habits do not require constant willpower to maintain once they are established because they become an automatic part of who we are. Thus, forcing ourselves in the short term leads to long-term benefits in the form of productive and healthy habits. The resistance within us is perhaps the most formidable obstacle to self-improvement. It often appears as a voice in our heads telling us to delay, to procrastinate, or to abandon our efforts altogether. This resistance is not just a psychological barrier, but a deep-seated force that often prevents us from pursuing our goals. It manifests in different ways: fear of failure, lack of confidence, or simply the desire to avoid discomfort. What is important to realize is that resistance is a universal experience. It is not unique to any one person. Everyone faces it at some point or another, especially when undertaking something significant or unfamiliar. However, the difference between those who succeed and those who don't lies in how they handle this resistance. The key is not to avoid or ignore it, but to face it head on. To force oneself means to confront this resistance directly. Rather than yielding to it, we must make the choice to act in spite of it. The act of forcing ourselves to overcome internal resistance gradually weakens its hold over us. As we continue to push forward despite the discomfort, we build the mental and emotional resilience necessary to persist. Each moment of resistance overcome becomes a victory, building the momentum needed to tackle even greater challenges. In a world that often seeks instant gratification, the concept of long-term rewards can seem distant or even unimportant. However, the greatest achievements in life, whether personal growth, success, or fulfillment, are the result of sustained effort over time. Short-term efforts can bring temporary results, but it is the long-term investment of energy, discipline, and persistence that brings lasting change. The rewards of forcing ourselves are not always immediate, but they are more meaningful in the long run. For instance, the satisfaction that comes from achieving a difficult goal, the sense of accomplishment after months or years of hard work, and the growth we experience in character are all long-term rewards that cannot be achieved through shortcuts. These rewards are not just about tangible outcomes, but also about the transformation that occurs in us as individuals. In this context, forcing ourselves today may seem burdensome, but the rewards of that effort compound over time. The pain of discipline today leads to the strength of character, success, and fulfillment tomorrow. By looking at the long-term picture, we can better appreciate the value of pushing through the discomfort and forcing ourselves to keep going. The results, although not immediately visible, are far more enduring and meaningful. In conclusion, the journey of personal growth and achievement is not one of comfort, but of purposeful effort. By forcing ourselves to act, even when motivation wanes or resistance rises, we cultivate discipline, willpower, and the habits that shape our character. Through consistent effort, we unlock the paradox of freedom, where true liberty lies in our ability to control our actions and stay aligned with our deeper goals. The rewards of this struggle are not immediate, but over time they compound into lasting fulfillment, success, and self-transformation. It is through these small, disciplined acts that we truly become who we are meant to be.